Every Thursday can become a different day. Not because some external force decided it for you, but because you have the power to choose to start over every 7 days, whenever you feel the need. Before any words, I invite you to do something simple. Stop for an instant. Place your hand over your chest, feel your heart beating beneath your palm, and take a deep breath. Feel the weight you have been carrying over the last few days, the last few weeks, perhaps the last few months. You don't need to name everything now. You just need to acknowledge that this weight exists, and that it is real. Many people live in a rush, piling up tasks, piling up worries, piling up silences that were never processed. And today, just for a moment, I want you to stop this machinery. Because before talking about transformation, about purpose, about a new cycle, one must first recognize where they are right now. There is no shame in that. Recognizing exhaustion is not weakness. It is the first gesture of honesty with yourself. And it is from this honesty that any true change is born. A Thursday, like any other day of the week, carries within it something symbolic when you decide to give it meaning. Not because there is magic hidden in the calendar, but because human beings have always needed markers to organize themselves internally. A birthday, a new year, the start of a month, the middle of a tiring week. All of this can serve as a reminder, an invitation to stop, look inward, and ask, what do I want to cultivate from now on? If you are watching this on a Thursday, great. Let this day represent a conscious pause in your routine. But what really matters is not the date marked on a calendar. What matters is the decision you make the moment you recognize that you need something different, a breather, a fresh start. This decision can happen today. It can happen tomorrow. It can happen at this exact second you are hearing these words. The new cycle doesn't begin because the clock turned. It begins because you chose to turn it within yourself. There is an idea that runs through different spiritual traditions and also appears in the teachings of Dolores Cannon, a researcher who dedicated decades to the study of regression and consciousness. The idea that nothing, absolutely nothing, happens by pure chance. Cannon described, based on hundreds of accounts collected throughout her career, the existence of what she called a life plan, a broad script that the soul or the deeper consciousness of each person would have drafted even before coming into the world. According to this perspective, encounters that seem casual, delays that seem like mere setbacks, challenges that arise without warning, are often part of a larger plot, architected by an intelligence that goes beyond the conscious understanding of day-to-day life. You must have already experienced this. A delay that avoided a bigger problem, a person who appeared at just the right time, a path that seemed wrong and in the end revealed itself to be necessary. It is not about blindly believing that everything has a perfect and immediate explanation. It is about making room for the possibility that there is a broader logic operating behind events, a logic that the intellect alone cannot see in real time, but which, looking back, often reveals itself with striking clarity. Think about your own trajectory. How many times have you looked back at a difficult chapter of the past and, years later, realized that that exact moment was what prepared you for something that would follow? How many doors that seemed closed actually pushed you toward the right path even if it was painful at that instant? This is not just a beautiful way to view life. It is, for many spiritual traditions, a structural truth about how existence organizes itself. The subconscious, according to this view, would hold memories, intentions, and purposes that the conscious mind, one does not access in daily life, but which continue to guide choices, attract situations, and organize encounters in a silent way. This does not mean that you should settle and passively wait for everything to resolve itself. It means, rather, that you can trust that even the most confusing moments are part of something greater, and that this trust in itself is already capable of alleviating part of the weight you carry. And it is exactly about this weight that I need to speak now, because it would be dishonest to move forward without acknowledging the real pain that many people feel when the weight extends beyond what seems bearable. There is a specific type of tiredness that is not physical, but spiritual. It is the tiredness of those who have already prayed, already asked, already tried everything, and yet feel that nothing changes. It is the tiredness of those who watch other people achieving what they themselves desire so much, while their own life seems stagnant, repeating the same script of frustration. If you are at this point, I will not tell you that you just need to think positive, or that your pain is just a matter of perspective. Your pain is legitimate. The tiredness of waiting is real, and pretending it doesn't exist would be a form of disrespect toward what you feel. But there is an important difference between abandonment and preparation, even if, from within the pain, the two sensations may seem identical. When a seed is planted in the earth, there is a period where nothing visible happens on the surface. There is no leaf, no stem, no sign of life to the eyes of those observing from the outside. And yet, beneath the ground, something extremely active is underway. Roots are forming, structures are strengthening, an entire system is being built to sustain what later on will break the surface and manifest. If you were to dig up this seed in the middle of this process, out of impatience or despair, you would destroy exactly what was being built to sustain future growth. Waiting, often, is not an absence of movement. It is invisible movement. It is construction that cannot yet be seen but which is already underway. This does not mean that you should resign yourself to everything, without acting, without striving, without seeking concrete changes in your life. It means, rather, that there is a difference between necessary action and the anxiety that sabotages. When you act out of fear, trying to force results out of pure desperation, you usually reap more weariness than fruit. When you act with consistency, but also with confidence that time has its own logic, you walk in a lighter way, even in the midst of difficulties. The difference is not in doing or not doing something for your life. It is in the internal energy with which you do what needs to be done. There is still another layer of this reflection that deserves to be deepened. The idea, present in various spiritual traditions and also in the account studied by Dolores Cannon, that the soul, before being born, would choose in advance some of the greatest challenges it would live throughout its existence. According to this perspective, these challenges would not be punishments or errors of the path, but rather specific tools, chosen with a purpose of growth that the conscious mind, trapped in the middle of the difficulty, usually cannot see. It is a challenging idea, because from within the pain it is almost impossible to imagine that it could have been chosen in any way, even if by a deeper part of ourselves. But think about how certain moments of intense suffering ended up revealing in you strengths that perhaps would never have been awakened in any other way. Think about how many people who went through profound losses became, afterwards, figures of a sensitivity and wisdom they did not previously possess. This does not make the pain any less painful, but it offers a possible meaning for it, a meaning that does not annul the suffering, but transforms it into something that also builds. I am not saying that you should be thankful for the pain while it still hurts. That would be cruel and unrealistic. What I am saying is that over time, many people are able to look back and recognize that the most difficult chapters of their lives were also the ones that strengthened them the most, the ones that deepened their understanding of themselves and others. If you are in the middle of one of these chapters now, perhaps you cannot see that meaning clearly yet. That is okay. It is not necessary to understand everything right now. It is possible to simply trust that, even without immediate understanding, there is a process of strengthening taking place, even if it is geared toward a result that only time will reveal. Faced with all this, it is also important to rethink some concepts that are often used vaguely or superficially. Miracle, prayer, faith, and gratitude. A miracle often is not a spectacular event that breaks the laws of nature before our eyes. A miracle can be, and frequently is, a silent process that is already in motion, but has not yet reached the point of becoming visible. The harvest does not happen on the day the plant finally blooms. It begins long before, at the moment the seed is planted. Likewise, many of the so-called miracles in people's lives were already underway long before they manifested in a perceptible way. This means that, even now, even in the midst of waiting, there may be something in motion that you cannot yet see. Prayer, in turn, does not need to be an elaborate discourse, nor repeated with technical perfection to be valid. A sincere prayer, even a simple one, even one made amidst tears, even one composed of a few disjointed words, carries genuine weight precisely because of its honesty. It is not formality that gives strength to a request, it is the emotional truth behind it. And faith, in this context, is not the absence of doubt. Faith is not the absolute certainty that everything will turn out exactly as you imagine. Faith is the decision to keep walking, even without having all the answers. It is the capacity to trust in a larger process, even when immediate logic offers no guarantees. And anticipated gratitude, a recurring concept also in contemporary spiritual practices, proposes something interesting. Instead of waiting for something to happen, and only then giving thanks, you practice gratitude in the present, as if the construction process currently underway already deserves recognition, even before it has fully manifested. This is not naivety, nor a denial of the difficult reality you are living now. It is a way to align your internal state with what you are trying to build, rather than constantly feeding the state of lack and anxiety that often only deepens suffering without bringing a solution. Based on these reflections, I want to propose a small practical exercise, simple, but one that can become a valuable ritual, especially on days like this one, in which you choose to stop and look within. The first step is honesty with yourself. Before any spiritual practice, it is necessary to acknowledge without masks what you truly feel. It is no use pretending to be calm if there is anguish inside. It is no use forcing a positivity that is not true. Begin by acknowledging, in silence or out loud, exactly what you are feeling right now. Fear, exhaustion, hope, confusion, everything that is real to you. The second step is sincere prayer, in the format that makes sense for your own belief or spirituality. You do not need to follow a ready-made script. Speak in your own words, in whatever way it comes, about what you are living, about what you desire, about what you fear. The third step is trust, even if still fragile, that there is a larger process underway, even if you cannot see it in full right now. You do not need to be absolutely certain. It is enough to open a small internal space for the possibility that things are organizing themselves, even if in a different way than you imagined. The fourth step is anticipatory gratitude, giving thanks not only for what already exists in your life, but also for the construction process you choose to believe is underway, even without seeing it completely. And the fifth step is a small, concrete action of faith, a gesture, no matter how small, that demonstrates in practice that you are willing to walk alongside this process, rather than just passively waiting for everything to happen on its own. It could be a message you had been putting off sending, a professional step you had been fearing to take, or self-care for your body or mind that you had been neglecting. Faith, when transformed into action, gains a different strength. You can turn this small ritual, honesty, prayer, trust, gratitude, and action, into a weekly practice, especially on Thursdays, if that day makes sense to you as a milestone for pause and renewal amidst the rush of the routine. Finally, there is one last reflection that I consider essential, perhaps the most important of all. You do not need to prove that you deserve to be loved, guided, or sustained. Many people live in a silent logic of merit, as if they needed to earn, through effort, perfection, or sacrifice, the right to receive good things in life. This logic, besides being exhausting, is often deeply unfair to those who carry it. You do not need to be perfect to deserve care. You do not need to get every choice right to deserve support. You do not need to prove your worth every day to have a right to peace, to love, to stability. This type of belief, although common, often comes from old wounds, from environments where love seemed conditional, dependent on behavior, performance, or the approval of others. But there is a difference between the human logic of conditional merit and a broader spiritual understanding, according to which each person, simply by existing, already carries inherent value, is already worthy of care, and is already part of something greater that does not require proof or sacrifice to sustain it. Learning to receive, and not just to strive tirelessly, is an essential part of any real process of inner transformation. Many people know how to give, how to self-sacrifice, how to work hard, but have enormous difficulty simply receiving help, receiving rest, receiving love without feeling the need to immediately reciprocate, receiving good news without being suspicious of it. If this is your case, perhaps the most important invitation at this moment is not to try harder, but rather to allow yourself more. Allow yourself to rest without guilt, Allow yourself to believe that good things can also happen to you, without the need to suffer first to deserve them. Allow yourself to trust, even with a tired heart, that you are not alone in this process. If this Thursday or any day you are hearing this represents a moment of conscious pause for you, let it also be a small symbolic milestone, not because an external force magically decided it for you, but because you chose now to look within, acknowledge your fatigue, embrace your pain, and yet keep moving forward with a little more lightness. Remain open to what is to come, without demanding exact deadlines or impossible guarantees. Trust that what is being built in silence, within you and around you, has its own timing, and that your part now is to continue taking care of yourself with honesty, with faith, and with the courage to keep going, even without having all the answers.